Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Talking Football podcast. I'm absolutely delighted to say we're joined on the line this week by former Hamilton Accies, Shamrock Rovers, Derry City defender. It's the one and only David Elebert. David, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, mate, no problems at all. Delighted to be here.
We're just speaking off here there that you're doing nights at the moment. How's it been for you with regards to the coronavirus and all that, and working and stuff? Has it affected you?
No, but luckily enough, we haven't been too affected as a family. I'm in the transport business, and my wife is in the construction industry. So both of us, luckily enough, have managed to stay working and throughout the whole thing. So yeah, relatively unaffected, thankfully,
Top man, excellent stuff. Well, looking back at the football career, David, when you were born back in 21st of March, it'll be your birthday soon, back in Dublin. What was life like growing up? Always kicking the ball around?
Yeah, mate, it was there was a lot of street football involved. Yeah, every time I got a chance out with a group of friends just out on the road and with a football. I think there was a couple of Christmases where we got our own, the five-a-side goals. We used to have them out decked out on the road, and morning, noon, and night out with a football.
Yeah, but did you play the Gaelic football and the hurling and all that sort of stuff as well?
Yeah, mate, I was a bit of a late bloomer with the Gaelic football. My main focus since I was a kid was soccer,
Yeah.
But growing up as a kid, I got all my friends and that were playing Gaelic football and hurling as well, and I took an interest in it. It's kind of it's a national game, so it's you take an interest in it quite quickly. And so I started playing Gaelic football and hurling probably in about when I was about maybe 10, 11. And quickly, because of the footballing skills, they're quite transferable to the Gaelic pitch.
Yeah.
So it ended up being fairly handy at that as well,
Yeah. Who did you follow any team when you were growing up?
Football team, like
Football. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a big Man United fan. Born and bred Man United fan. My father and grandfather, big huge United fans. So I remember some of the earliest memories are watching that United 92, 93 team.
Yeah.
The league winning team. So I was born into our following success, as they might say.
Yeah, absolutely. And defending then, was that always your position that you played growing up, or did you play any other positions?
I think when I was younger, I was a midfielder, sort of an old school box to box midfielder, if you like. Yeah, but it was always a ball winning midfielder. It was never a nice cultured midfielder like a Xavi or Iniesta role,
Yeah.
But it was probably when I was around 11 or 10, or when I kind of took a growth spurt. So I was always taller than most of the kids in the team, so they put me back to centre back so where I could use my head.
Yeah. See, when you said Man United was your team, did you have any players that you looked up to, any role models and that sort of thing?
Yeah, but obviously that United team were fairly kind of fairly famous, and Cantona was always a huge favourite. But there was I think the first name and number I got on the back of one of my Manchester United jerseys was Jaap Stam. So straight away I see your Lazio jumper on there as well. I remember Jaap Stam, all right. But yeah, no, I took it. The older I got, the more of an interest I took in defenders in particular. So as the years went on, over United have had some fantastic centre halves, and the likes of Rio, and a personal favourite of mine would have been Vidic, Nemanja Vidic.
Yeah. Stan was amazing, man. I loved him. See when you joined Preston, how did that all come about, David? Did they send scouts over? Were you playing for a boys' club or something like that?
Yeah, well, the way it works over here, it's schoolboy football. It is, so you're playing for the local team or local club, and scouts come out and watch the matches. Probably it's the same over there with the football over there, So yeah, so I was away on a good few trials. Now, like usually what happens is like every mid-term break for school, I was going away on trials with all the teams across the water. So eventually I came to Preston. Preston made me an offer. I had a couple of offers across the board. I'd been at clubs like Arsenal and Leicester and Villa, but chose to go to Preston because I was always quite critical of myself and quite self-aware and reflective of my own abilities and strengths and weaknesses, as was my father, who used to give me a team talk before every game, and and the dressing down after every game if I put in a poor performance, you know. So we were always quite realistic in my kind of aims and goals and how far I could actually push my career, you know. So we came to Preston, and we got an offer from Preston, and they were a strong side at that moment. Yeah. The season I signed, I think they got to the playoff final and were beaten by I think it was by
West Ham, I think, was it?
No, the West Ham was when I was there.
Yeah.
Years previous, I think they were beaten on penalties by somebody.
Yeah.
It could have been something like Birmingham went up a couple of years previous.
Yeah.
Or Crystal Palace. I think it was Andy Johnson was playing in front for one of them. I think it could have been Crystal Palace actually.
Yeah, might have
been. Yeah, so it was a strong club at the time. David Moyes was actually the manager when I signed. So yeah, it was, and David Moyes would have had huge connections with the youth team and pushing them, and that was one of the reasons why I went there, because there was I think the youth team used to train with the first team every Tuesday and work with the back four, or the back four used to go in and train with the first team. So that was a huge incentive for me to choose Preston. But it was a real family kind of oriented club. So yeah, they were always looking after the Irish lads going over there, and myself in particular. They went out of their way to look after me throughout the years, you know.
Yeah. What was Davy Moyes like as a manager? Did the young boys have much dealings with him when you were over there?
Yeah, like, so as a touchdown there. So every Tuesday in the afternoon, so Moyes would take his attackers out in the pitch, drawing a bit of a phase session plan, and the back four of the U team would be the defenders, probably to give the attackers a bit more confidence, to be honest, going into the weekend, you know, hoping to score a few goals. But no, it was a great experience for certainly the academy lads. And that Moyes used to do that every season, regardless of the U team or who was there, how good they were. And we've seen it as a way to progress them, and the better players you play against, the better you become as a player yourself. So yeah, but Moyes, he was a good character around the place. I only dealt with him a few times because I was over there on my trials, and then eventually when I signed, I went over for a week, one of the mid-term breaks. So yeah, he was a big character around the place. Really friendly, really approachable kind of guy. You know, some of the first team players might tell you otherwise. But no, he was a really, really great character, and in his career kind of speaks for itself since he left Preston, you know.
Yeah, were you staying over in digs over there, David, when you moved over?
Yeah, so that was the arrangement that the club had. There was about 12 of us in the digs, and luckily enough at the time there was a strong Irish connection. So I think at any given time there was maybe 3 or 4 of us in the digs.
Yeah.
You had a couple of the older lads into the last year of the contracts when I went over first. But I was in the digs for 3 years, so that was great. It was a great environment to be in, and like, you're living and breathing football. Yeah. So yeah, we're mixed in with all the English lads, but all the English lads used to go home at the weekend, so we used to have a free run of the digs at the weekend. So if we didn't go home, you know, so it was good crack.
Of course, he'd leave Moisey, and then Craig Brown comes in, doesn't he? How did you find him?
Yeah, Craig Brown was great. Like, he was first and foremost, he's a really nice man.
Yeah.
Never are always quick to have a quick chat with you, or just to see how you're doing and stuff like that. You know, he's a really, really lovely man. So, but and given his experience with Scotland as well, it was huge. I think the first thing he did was to come in and change formation. Went to a back three, and some of the defenders and some of the players in the first team it was a bit alien to them. But we ended up playing a back three with the U team as well, as a plan, or as a progression plan from the U team into the first team, you know. But yeah, no, it was great. I actually really enjoyed playing in a back three, and there was times where you jump up again with the first team and be training with them or playing with them in the reserves, and yeah, so it was good to get just a different formation, a different view on the game when Craig came in. And his assistant as well was Billy Davis, who was brilliant. Yeah. He was absolutely brilliant on the training pitch, you know. So I think Craig was more of a man manager, and Billy was the man the man who put the session plans on the grass from, you know.
Yeah. Was there some big characters in that dressing room at the time? I was looking at some of the players there at that time. It must have been quite a lively place to be.
Yeah, there really was. Like, this is a top championship team at the time, you know. So there was a lot of huge characters. Sean Gregan was there, who eventually went to West Brom and played Premiership for West Brom. And he's the likes of Richard Creswell. Yeah. David Healy was there. A fellow who came through the ranks at Preston. Paul McKenna was there, really good midfielder. And then you had Chris Ducetti, who eventually made club captain as a centre half. Graham Alexander was there.
Yeah.
So I was kind of littered with a few internationals across the board there, and then like a couple of signings later I made was Ricardo Fuller came in as a striker, and he was brilliant. Marking him in training was pretty difficult. Alright, trying to keep up with him. But yeah, then when Billy took over as manager, then I kind of took the club to the next level. And they were challenging year in year out with Billy,
Yeah.
But yeah, a really strong club at the time, and yeah, some really strong players there as well.
Yep. Simon Lynch was there for a bit, wasn't he? Ex Celtic. Did he? I was reading a bit about him. He went and had a sort of music career. Did he bring his guitar into training or anything like that, or was he?
Well, not into training, but I was around his house a few times, and he had the guitar ready to go. Yeah, but Lynchy's a good friend of mine, and he actually went back to Dundee, and when I was at Hamilton, and I tried to lay a few kicks into him a few times as well when he was there. So no, he's a good friend of mine, Lynchy. So yeah, he took up music as a career afterwards, and I think he was doing well with it for a certain period. I haven't really kept in touch with his musical career. Maybe he wasn't that good after
all. So you mentioned Billy Davies came in. Of course, we touched on the club made the playoff final in 2005. West Ham beat them. Did you go to the Millennium Stadium at all, David? Were you there? Or?
Yeah, so that would have been my last year in the U team.
Yeah,
and I was due to go back then for pre-season with the first team. So I'd say a lot was riding on that game on my career. Because if they'd have got promoted, they probably would have done a sweep across the board and let a few lads go, and I probably would have been one of them that would have been let go. The fact that I had a contract and just made me stay on with the first team. I don't think Billy particularly fancied me. I thought I was good enough for the first team at that time. But now I ended up staying and doing pre-season with the first team the year after, and it was the best thing that I could have done, because I made a bit of an impression on Billy, and he eventually sorted out the move to Hamilton from me.
Yeah. Before that, you had a wee loan spell at Scarborough. Were you pleased to, I guess, a chance there to go and actually play some games? It must have been good for you.
Yeah, it was good, mate. I was supposed to be there for the Christmas, but they changed manager halfway through, so I ended up going back to Preston a bit earlier than expected.
Yeah. Don't go dying on me.
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
You can just edit that out if you want.
See, Neil Redfern was at Scarborough at the time, wasn't he? I was looking.
Yeah. So when I went in there first, Redders was player manager, player coach.
Yeah.
And he was brilliant. He was still playing. So
yeah.
Really good player at the time, and he used to score a lot of goals for us from midfield.
Yeah.
And so when I went in there first, it was great, because it was me jumping into proper men's football, and senior football, which was huge at the time. Like, going from 19s level, you're playing against kids your own age, and really what you have to do is get out and play first team football anywhere. Yeah. So they were in the conference. The club actually itself wasn't in great shapes at the time. I think they ended up going to the wall not long after I left. But it was a huge learning experience for me, and a real reality check of how football is and can be. I really saw the ugly side of the game when I was at Scarborough.
Yeah.
Like, you had players getting paid by check and checks bouncing. So it was really, really shocking. Like, and some of these lads, like what do you do as a professional footballer when you're not being paid? Do you stick it out, and do you keep the head down, or do you basically go on strike, like, because you're not being paid? A lot of the time, it's players just keep going because they don't know any better. Yeah. Luckily enough, the PFA now are a strong union for the players, so they can fight the players' corner. But really a big learning curve, eye opener to what the game can be like for some professionals. Certainly at a specific level, or at the lower levels in football. So really ugly time, but it was good. It was good for me. It toughened me up a little bit more, Yeah. And along with playing men's football down the conference, I remember my first pre-season game. I think we played Sheffield United in a friendly, or maybe Scunthorpe it was. And they had a big striker playing up front. I think his name was Ian Thorpe, and I went through the back of, or he went through the back of me, or left an elbow on me. So the next header I went for, I went and left a bit on him, and it was like something out of a movie. He just kind of went, "Come on, then." And he went, "Oh shit!" Like, panic stations. He was 6'3". He was built like a fridge. Like, and I was going, shit, next header, he's gonna kill me. Like, but yeah, so that was all part of growing up and learning me trade in the conference, you know. So, but it was good. It was good then to move north. Go back to Preston, play a bit of reserve team football, and then eventually move north to Scotland.
Yeah. See, finally touching on Scarborough. I mean, I had Jamie Mitchell on a few months ago. He played for them in the 90s, and he said he was just young, probably about your age, and he was just he loved being at the seaside and going out and partying and all that because it's a good party atmosphere down there. Did you sample the delights of Scarborough at all when you were over there?
Yeah, we had a few nights out, all right. I'm not too sure. It was no Las Vegas or anything like that. It was more like a seaside holiday resort, you know, more like a Mosney or a Butlins or something. So maybe if that's what Jamie's into, you know. But no, listen, enjoyed my time there. Did have a couple of nights out with the lads. There was a good bunch of lads that were there. It was just a shame what was happening with, at the time, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a good experience, a great experience for me to see what it was like. Yep. Really, the best experience I had there was actually playing games, you know.
Yeah. So see the Accies move, David. But were you disappointed at the time to leave Preston? Did you feel that you deserved maybe a chance to show what you could do there?
No, not really. I wasn't bitter about the whole thing at all. Again, going back to me being quite reflective and quite realistic in my goals. They had a couple of international centre halves playing there, and I think 2 or 3 of them could do the 100-meter sprint in about 10 seconds. So I was never the quickest off the mark myself. So I was never going to really live up to their qualities. I certainly had different qualities to them. I was more of a talker, communicator, kind of a leader. The first 10 yards is always in your head. At that level, it really did need to be 10 yards, you know, because the championship is certainly more an athletic league now than it ever was, you know. Yeah. But yeah, no, I was never bitter about the whole thing. Billy sorted me out with the move to Hamilton. I think the way it worked out was that Preston were looking to take another lad who was actually playing for the reserve team at the time. He was under 19s, so he would have been behind me in the pecking order. I would have been like a young pro, and but I couldn't play when I went back initially from Scarborough because there was something to do with the registration. I had to be re-registered with Preston, and it was a couple of weeks break. So I think Billy Reid was down watching a reserve game, and one of the other lads played and wanted to take him, but Billy interjected and said, "No, listen, I have a better one for you," and sent me up. Yeah. And a day or two later, I was an Accies player.
Yeah, magic. Did you know much about Accies or Hamilton or anything like that before you joined?
Not an awful lot. There was one or two of the Preston lads went up on loan.
Yeah.
John Bailey, I think one of the lads went up on loan. He was a couple of years ahead of me. In Preston's academy or Preston's underage setup. But yeah, no, didn't really know a whole lot about Accies or the main focus for me growing up as a kid would have been Celtic and Rangers, you know, the old firm. Anything outside of that was kind of irrelevant, to be honest.
Yeah, no.
Without doing the league any disrespect, you know. But yeah, I soon got to know all about the Scottish League and Accies in particular.
Yeah, so Billy Davis, a great character. Billy Reid, another top character as well. How did you find him? I guess another lively dressing room, I'd imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Billy built a very strong dressing room there during that time there. He was very good. Billy would always have that, or for me, maybe it was because I went in there as a kid. I was only 19 or 20 going up there. So yeah, it would have been. He was more of like a father figure influence to me, if you know what I mean. So he would always have that, the fear factor about him, you know. So when Billy gave you a dressing down after a poor performance, you knew all about it, and you just took on the chin, you know. Yeah. But yeah, no, he was fantastic. Like, really good man manager and really approachable. And I remember there was one season I started back and I had a bit of a mare in the first 2 games, and I was going, what's going on? Like, and Billy pulled me in after one of the games, seeing I was a bit upset and all, and he says, what's going on, G? All right. So in terms of man management skills, he just kind of he picked me out at that place. I was in at that time in terms of performances and that. And I think the next game I went out and scored a winner against Dundee. So then after that it was all about just keeping confidence going, and Billy was great for that, you know, with the lads.
Yeah. How did you find Scottish football? Was it right up your street, David, being sort of rough and tumble?
Without doing myself any disrespect, yeah. Yeah, 100%. It was again, it was just a man's game up there, you know, and it's all about winning at the end of the day. So it's winning at all costs, whether it's playing pretty football, Accies in general. We tried to play a little bit of football. We had the players over the years to be able to do that, but we could certainly mix it if it got ugly as well, which would have suited me more so than anything else, you know.
Yeah, I mind what I covered a few games but back in the day, and it was great watching Hamilton, especially that season. You went up from the old First Division, the Championship. I mean, the style of football that you played was brilliant, and you had the players to do that. It was great to see them giving sort of youth a chance, wasn't it, and being part of that side.
Yeah. Well, that was it. It was a change in the style of play as well. So if you look at the First Division teams, a lot of them would be blood and thunder. Like just trying to get promoted or trying to survive. Where you go up into the SPL and you have proper tactics and proper teams trying to play proper football. You know, even the likes of Rangers and Celtic, they'll probably sit off you in your own half. So give us a chance to kind of express ourselves and play out from the back if you wanted to. But yeah, gave us a better chance of kind of putting a stamp on ourselves and being able to play a bit more, maybe in our own half and the build up toward the pitch. Now it was harder obviously to score goals in the final third, and with the standard going up, certainly defensively things were harder to score against and more organised and well drilled, you know. But yeah, no, we did try. We did try a couple of occasions. We failed, quite glamorously, but yeah, okay, we were a decent side over the years in the top flight there with that team, and we tried to play a bit of ball when we could, but like I said, when we had to roll up the sleeves, we did, you know.
Yeah, how did you enjoy? I know more often than not you came off a heavy defeat, but playing at arenas like Parkhead and Ibrox as a player, David, what was that like?
Yeah, it was great. They were never really packed out when Hamilton would arrive up for an away game at Ibrox or at Celtic Park. But yeah, no, it was brilliant. Like it was different football. Like, so you're like, say playing at New Douglas Park, like you're shouting at lads and they can actually hear you. Even if there's 2,000 people there, where you're at Celtic Park and there's 50,000 people there and they can't hear a word you're saying. So, so in that regard, it's a harder environment. So you're kind of going off your footballing ability and your communication with your teammates and your understanding with your teammates a bit more. Probably why Rangers and Celtic are as good as they are, because they're naturally playing with each other, rather than being forced or maybe helping each other out on the pitch in that moment at any given time, sort of thing. So, but that's all part of training and getting to know your players around you in training every day and being able to translate that into the pitch, you know.
Yeah, but some of the players, especially the defenders for yourself, but like Big Marco and Chris Swales was there for a time as well. Martin Canning, did these guys help you? Do you enjoy playing alongside these guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Learned loads from each of them individually. Chris Swales, I think he was still playing when he was 38.
Yeah.
In the SPL, really great experience, lad. Like he was just a good honest centre half. You know, read the game really well. Big Marco the same. He was a warrior. Like, again, in fairness, all three of them would have read the game very well. Kanza would have had a bit more pace than all three of us put together, I think. Yeah. But no, equally the three lads were very good players, very good professionals as well. Like, you don't, like Lucas Wales, you don't play until you're or as long as he did for us. Yeah. Big Marco as well. I think Big Marco is still playing junior when he's about 42. And then Kanza went into management then. So those three characters, how can you not learn from them? You know, playing alongside them. Probably didn't learn as much, but didn't appreciate how good they were until I was gone. Until you lose that experience beside you. But yeah, I would try to pick up every bit of knowledge I could off those three and a few others in the dressing room as well. Yeah,
another one that went into management and done really well, Alec Neil. He was very vocal as a player, as a captain as well. Did you enjoy? Did you get yelled at a few times by him, or did you enjoy playing with him?
Yeah, I don't think anybody didn't get yelled at too much with Alex, you know. But no, I would have been kind of right there behind him in terms of dishing out bollockings at the time as well. So now listen, myself and Alex were kind of on the same wavelength. We a good few conversations over the years, and actually he let me go into Preston a couple of years ago. I asked him could I go and do like a little club visit or see what he was at in training, or see what they did day to day. So I'm doing my A license at the minute. It's been delayed a little bit with the coronavirus, but yeah, I asked Alex to just go in and give us a little insight into what he was doing as a manager and in terms of prepping for the game. So I went in on a Friday, and so he's doing all sorts of analysis with the players, and what they're going to do, their preparations and tactics for the upcoming game. And then they go out and produce it on the training pitch.
Yeah.
And so it was great. It was a great experience. So Alex was always very, very approachable, very talkative with me, certainly off the pitch. And again, to this day, he'll tell you if I can help you out in any way, he will.
Yeah, he's a top man. Yeah, of course, the two Jameses were there as well. Great talents themselves. Did you realise back then? I mean, I've had a few Accies ex players on, and they said Thomas Cherney had on recently. He said he knew straight away in training they're just different class. Is that what you found?
Yeah, well, not only their ability was kind of undoubtable, really, but it was what they gave to training sessions and in our team. It was always such a good competitive streak in the two of them, and in everybody in that dressing room, in fairness, and that's why the team was so successful at the time, or the club was so successful over those few years. So it was just the energy and the buzz they brought about the place. You know, like even when James came in, like he was only 16, or James McCarthy came in, he was only like 15 or 16 when he played for us first. So it was like you're dealing with these kids, like the kids. Like, and I would have been only 20, 21 myself at the time when he came through. But like the kids, they just liven the place up. They freshen the place up. James McCarthy as well. He's a bundle of energy the whole time as well. So no, it just brought that buzz and brought that energy into training sessions, and we all had to step up to the mark. Otherwise, we would have got left behind, you know.
Yeah. So did you play the Lanarkshire Derby? You'd have played in that, wouldn't you, when you were at Accies?
Ah, yeah, I played in many of them.
Yeah. What was that like?
Yeah, it was there was a bit of I don't want to say hatred, but it was but it was definitely a bit of something there, you know. Again, because the first season like we were there, the first full season I was there, it was a nothing game really, because we didn't play Motherwell at all over the years. But then as soon as we got up into the SPL at the time, it was pretty heated games, all right.
Yeah. Some of the other players that I was looking at, like I said, I was talking to Thomas about this when Luis Rubiales came in, only for a few weeks or something like that, wasn't he? But it's amazing what he went on to become the main man for the Spanish FA. Do you have any memories of him when he came in?
Yeah, I mean, it was actually, Luis was great. Ruby used to call him. So he was brilliant, like a really lovely fella first and foremost, but really professional, and just the way he went about just preparing himself and just getting himself, even little things like his diet, what he was doing is keeping himself hydrated around the training pitch and the club and that. He was only in for, I think he played at Rangers away at Ibrox, and we were hammered.
Yeah,
I think that was the last we seen of Ruby, you know. Just the game didn't suit him. I think in that game Ruby was playing left back and ended up in the right wing at one stage, and we were kind of going, where's he gone? Like, but so he had that kind of creative, eccentric side to him. But yeah, no, he was always his English was actually the most impressive part of him, really. To be honest, he was fluent in English when he came across. Always wanted to have a chat with you. Wanted to know, like, really kind of get in-depth conversations with you. I remember he came to a pre-season with us in Ireland. Actually, we went back to Dublin for a pre-season, and just every time he sat down at the table for whether it be breakfast, lunch, or dinner, whoever he was sitting beside, and I think he went out of his way to sit with everybody individually, or went with as many people as possible, and just to find out more about them, just to get find out what their interests were, what they got up to in their spare time. And you know, he had that. You knew he was just going to be he was a bit of a leader, you know, like a bit of a it was quite an inspirational kind of a character. If looking back at it now, like, again, didn't quite appreciate it at the time. Just thought he was a busybody trying to get in everybody's ear, you know? But no, like he was a proper leader, and it didn't really surprise me when he took the reins of the Spanish FA or the Spanish PFA.
Yeah, it's incredible stuff. Michael-Antoine Courier was there as well, another big character. Again, we had him on, I think last year we had him on as well. He must have kept things lively as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah, the big man, I think drama followed him wherever he went, you know. But listen, the big man was great. For what he did for us as a team, he gave us a focal point up there, you know, and you could lash the ball into him from wherever. And all he wanted to do was just hold it up, lay it off, and get himself in the box where he could score his goals, you know. And he was brilliant. He was brilliant for the job he did, and for the role as a striker. You know, he was great for the team.
Yeah, and I mean, behind the scenes, it always seemed a right good place to be. The likes of that. Danny the Kit Man and Avril and all that there. It just seemed like a real fun place to be at the time.
Yeah, well, like all those types of characters at the club would have came with Billy from Clyde. I know Danny came from Livingston a few years later, but no, I think Billy, one of Billy's strengths was what he had in his backroom staff, and he never really had anybody that was gonna really fall out with anybody personally, if you know what I mean. He always had good people with him. Again, that's down to his man management and his people skills. So everybody at the club, we had a really good laugh every day, and that was some of the memories we had there, just of even day-to-day training and the crack and the banter we had was always what stands out, and certainly my career when I look back. I actually remember Alex Neil saying, like remember these times at the club, and remember how much fun it is, because these types of clubs don't come around that often, you know. And certainly with that Accies team, with a really good camaraderie, we were out probably a little bit more than we should have. No, that was Billy gave us a little bit of free rein there as well. So a team that socialises together wins together, basically, is I think what Billy's motto was, you know. But yeah, now listen, really strong knit club. Probably started with Billy and in his recruitment and everything else like that. We never really signed anybody that didn't fit in, or if they didn't fit in and straight away, Billy wasn't afraid to let them go straight away and pull the trigger in that regard, you know. There's a bit of a ruthless streak in him as well, which was great to have. But yeah, Billy always had the best interest of the dressing room and the club at heart, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. That final season you're there, David, of course, the club were relegated that year. Did you decide to leave then, or how did that come about? What made you leave Accies?
Yeah, so the year previously, I was kind of I would have been probably third choice centre back, being realistic about it. And we used to go to a back three from time to time. And if it was ever a back three, I'd play if the opposition played two up top. So I was always the third choice, and Big Marco and Kanzo probably would have played ahead of me. So at the time I was thinking it was about maybe 24, 25. So it was kind of, my ego was taking a hit at the minute at that time, you know. So I spoke to the chairman, Ronnie McDonald, the season previous. I only signed a 1-year deal, where in reality I probably should have signed a longer deal. But again, that was my inexperience and naivety and my ego getting in the way. I probably should have signed for longer than 1 year for my career, because if you're looking at it, Marco Kanzo certainly Marco wasn't getting any younger. You won't be impressed with me for saying that about him. But yeah, so I probably would have been tipped as his long-term replacement for the club, you know. But I only signed a 1-year deal. We got relegated that year, and it was just a no-brainer. I think Simon Menson, Marco Kanzo all had contracts, so they didn't need me, you know. It was just a business decision at the end of the day. So listen, I was probably not ready for a change, but I kind of fancied something different then. And then I ended up going over to Iceland after that. So that was certainly was a different turn in my career then, you know.
Yeah, but see before we look at that Iceland time, see when you're at Accies, you played for the Republic's under, was it 21s? Is that right? You represented them?
Yeah, that's right. So the season we won the league, it was called into the 21s then.
Yeah. And
we had a summer tournament over in Malaysia. It was actually an under 23s tournament, but I was still only 21. So the Irish team, we took a 21s team to it.
Yeah.
So we went over there. It was like an 8-team tournament for a couple of weeks, 2 weeks it was. So yeah, it was brilliant, great experience, and it was all basically off the back of winning the league with Hamilton, you know. So for anyone who thinks that the Irish setup don't watch the Scottish League, would be hugely mistaken. I just won the championship with Hamilton, so relatively unknown, and managed to get myself in the under 21s, and ended up captaining the team over there as well.
Yeah, I mean, you must have been mega proud to do that, Dave, and your family must have been proud of that.
Like the internationals, it was always a huge privileged moment, you know. It was always a reflection of how you were doing at club level.
Yeah.
To be selected in the international setup, you know. So I always kind of thought to myself, I must be doing something right if I'm getting selected for the national team, you know, or under 21 level. So yeah, like just huge proud moment for me and the family. I still have the jerseys and the armband upstairs there. So that was a hugely proud moment.
Yeah, magic. And so Iceland then, it's a bit left field. What was the script there? Was there any other offers, or did you just fancy something completely different?
Yeah, to be honest, I had a few offers. So when I was still in Scotland, I ended up going. I was training with Queen of the South for a bit. trained with Queen of the South, trained with Ayr, and kind of bounced around there. So I was talking to Brian Reid, and Gus McPherson was at Queen's as well at the time. So I was playing a couple of pre-season friendlies and that, and ended up let me think of the situation. I think I ended up pulling my hamstring in one of the games. So I was injured then, and then what happened was then my wife got a job down in London. So we just decided to make a break for it, and I was only looking at first division offers, so it wasn't probably a similar money to what I was on at Accies.
Yeah.
So decided to go, right, look, I had an agent at the time who had contacts down in London, so I went down to London and done a bit of training down there until I could get in the door at a few places. So trained at Dagenham, trained Wickham, actually, and then another thing what happened a bit closer to Christmas now, so I was a couple of months behind everybody else because of the injury I picked up with the friendly at Queen's, or Ayr was actually. I went in for a trial game with Wickham, and we played Chelsea at their training ground, and I ended up playing fullback, and I was marking Ryan Bertrand from Southampton. He was coming through the ranks there at Chelsea, and I was chasing him up and down the pitch so much. I pulled my hamstring again, so I was really on the back burner then. Like, so, I went to go see a running specialist down in London. Actually, I've been to see him sporadically over the years, to help me with injury prevention and stuff like that as well. So I think on the back of the 2 hamstring injuries, it was about time I went back and seen him. So by the time I was actually back fit, it was nearly around the Christmas time. So then had a couple of offers come in from across the water, so the likes of Iceland, a couple of offers from like Greece and Cyprus and that. But the Iceland thing just kind of felt right. At the club, I've been in contact, and I really got a good impression of them. Ended up going for pre-season with them a week to Albufeira in the start of February. So that was a great training camp. The weather was nice there as well at the time, so got to know all the lads there and got to know the staff and the management. And again, just kind of a real homely environment to the club. You know, the Icelandic clubs, I don't know if you know how they work over there, but their little towns and villages are basically built around football clubs and sports clubs. And it's not just the football. They have, like, so the sports club, or the team I played for was called Filkir. So they would have had an indoor hall facility. They had an Astro. They had a couple of outdoor grass pitches. They also had like an outdoor indoor swimming pool facilities. So all these clubs are built around their facilities, and a really kind of community based environment, you know. So it's really good, really great, family kind of community orientated place to be. And I just felt right at home there very early, and they went out away from me. I would have been their only international signing, and went in there, made an impression straight away, and I was captain for a couple of games towards the end of the season. So my time there was fantastic. My wife was still in London at the time, so personally it was a bit tough. But she was over every month, or I was at home every month for a week or a couple of days visit. But no, really enjoyed it. Kind of got me back. Like, I was training full time with our lads, but the way it works in Iceland is that they're not. Most of them are semi-pro. No, I would have been on professional terms. So during the daytime, I was going to the gym and then training in the afternoon. So I got myself in really good condition to give me a chance to kind of refocus the mind and work on all the prehab stuff I was given by their running coach in London at the time. So yeah, it gave me a chance to do extra work outside of the training pitch. And I had a fantastic season over there, and they ended up offering me a 2-year deal after that. Which incorporated like a job for my wife and everything else like that. But it just wasn't to be. Myself and my wife decided to come home and start a family. So we chose to come home then after that.
Yeah, Iceland's a cracking place. I was there a few years ago. Did you go to the Blue Lagoon and all that, and go and see the Northern Lights?
Yeah, one of the lads in the team actually worked in the Blue Lagoon as a tourist or a tourist attraction. Yeah. So he was able to dish me out a few free tickets. So every time somebody was over, family was over, I was just bringing them to the Blue Lagoon. Had my parents over, and my wife's parents. Every time my wife was over, we pop into the Blue Lagoon. It was great, just to chill out, you know. Yeah,
it's a cracking place to definitely go back. You signed for Shamrock Rovers then back in 2013. What was the thinking behind that move? You want to just go back home?
Yeah, well, to be honest, there wasn't much thinking behind it at all. I came home, and James Chambers, who was at Accies, with me a couple of seasons before, he had just signed for Shamrock Rovers, and he knew the manager very well. So straight away, James made a phone call to the manager, said, "Listen, there's a lad coming home from Scotland here, or from Iceland here, and we think he's worth a look at." And just straight away, it was a no-brainer for me. Shamrock Rovers would be the biggest club in the country.
Yeah.
And like snapped the hand off as soon as they came in for me, you know.
Yeah, but the one that was a good season for them that year. They won 2 cup finals, didn't you? You were on the bench. Was it the EA Sports Cup final that they beat?
Yeah, mate, I was on the bench for the was the EA Sports. There was 2 of them. We won the League Cup and the EA Sports that year. I can't remember now, to be honest, which one. I think it was the EA Sports when I was on the bench, and then played the League Cup final.
Yeah.
So won 2 cups with Rovers. Bit of a disappointing season overall because we had a very strong squad in terms of the personnel we had in the League of Ireland, you know. Didn't really challenge for the league. Didn't even get to Europe actually. In fact, that season we had too many draws, and not enough wins. But yeah, no, disappointing season for the club in terms of league position, but in terms of cups, we done all right. We held our own in the cup competitions, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, then it moved after that year up to Derry. But yeah, so that's you still there, yeah?
Yeah. I'm still here. Yeah.
Sorry, you just hit the screen there. By accident. But yeah, no, moved to Derry then after that, and had a couple of like frustrating seasons with first of all with Shamrock Rovers and then Derry, and then took a bit of time off from the game. Injuries were kind of creeping up on me, probably from all the physical exertions from my younger days, you know. I was always one to try and outrun myself, if you like, competing with the likes of the lads James McCarthy's of this world. You know, again, wasn't the most athletic, so time on my body was starting to take its toll, you know.
Yeah, so see how you're doing your A license. Were you always thinking about doing the coaching when even back then, David, from an early age?
Yeah, I think it was always on my mind. I done my B license coming towards the end of my career. I think I was about 30 when I done my B license. But yeah, I would always have had a good understanding about the game. Quite vocal on the pitch, a couple of leadership qualities there, you know. So, would have always understood the game, understood the basics of keeping in shape as a team, and certainly defensively, I would have understood the game very well. So yeah, it was always a natural progression for me to take up the coaching badges. And as I said, I'm on my A license at the minute. I have one more coaching practice to put on with the FAI, but with this lockdown restrictions, we've actually been a year now waiting to go back and do a coaching session. So it's been a bit frustrating, you know.
So what, is that the dream, to be a manager in your own right?
Yeah, well, the A license would enable you to take a job anywhere really across Europe with your A license. But yeah, like to be honest with you, at the minute I've gone back and started studying. So when I say started, I mean when I came back and signed for Shamrock Rovers, I started a sport management degree. So the first 2 years of that degree were business management. So I got the first 2 years of that, which I felt was the most important thing to do. And then at the end of those 2 years, we had our second baby. So I was at home with the kids, working nights. So the college was being affected really in the end of that second year when my little fella was born. So I decided to defer for maybe 5 or 6 years, or I didn't really put a time frame on it, but I knew I wanted to go back at some stage. And then just with all this lockdown restrictions and everything else and the game kind of on hold, I just decided in September to go back and start finish off my BA in sport management. So it's an online course. It's an online course anyway, but now the whole college is online because of the restrictions. Over in Denmark as well, it's a Danish college running the course. So hopefully by next or the end of December, I should have a BA in sport management. And just along with that, it's kind of taken my thought process in a different way, or down a different path. It's all to do with the organisation, the structures of sports clubs and and sport organisations and that as well. So my mind is not only have I got the background in the football now, or this is where I kind of want to get to. So I have a background in football. I'll eventually have my A license in the bag, and with a BA in sport management as well. So it's gonna hold me in good stead for the future, you know.
Yeah, I wish you all the best with that. Looking back on the career then, David, in terms of players that you came up against, was the one that gave you a tougher time than anyone else? Can you remember?
Yeah, I remember Kenny Miller gave me the run around a few times, and it wasn't even the run around as such, but it was just his strengths were like always on the move, never stopping, like really sharp kind of speed orientated player, you know. Now just one of my weaknesses would have been stopping and starting and getting going again. It was like a big cart horse, for want of a better word, you know. Oh yeah, so he would have been my idea of my worst nightmare, as you'd say. On the other scale of that, then you would have had Chris Boyd, who was relatively uninvolved in the build up to a game, but as soon as the ball came into the box, then you'd have to be on your guard. One of Boyd's strengths was peeling off at the back stick and playing off fullbacks and winning headers at the back stick. So he was a different style of player to play against, but equally both fantastic players in their own way.
Yeah. Is there any player that you played with that is the best player that sort of stands out more than any others?
At Accies?
Just anywhere during your career.
Yeah, well, so when I go back to Preston days, you'd have to say Graham Alexander was one of the standouts.
Yeah.
In terms of his professionalism and how good he was as a player.
Yeah.
You've only got to look at what he's done in his football career. I think he played in the Premiership when he was 40.
Yeah.
And then gone on to a successful management career as well. Now he's at Motherwell, so the less said about that, the better now. But I've known Graham. Graham would have been one of the senior pros at Preston at the time, and obviously a Scottish international as well. So a few little connections there with Graham, and just a few messages over the years. So but no, he was a standout. Certainly with Preston anyway. And then with Accies, obviously you'd probably, the obvious ones would be James McCarthy, James MacArthur.
Yeah.
Big Marco was a huge influence on my career. And Alex Neil, obviously, just with the success he's had in his playing career and then his managerial career. He's still a young manager. Yeah. He's playing his trade, or he has played his trade in the Premiership and the Championship now.
Yeah. Well, it's been absolutely sensational having you on, David. I've really enjoyed it. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
Brilliant, mate. Thanks for having me. It's always good to look back in my career, and something that most players don't get the chance to do or don't do as often as they should. So yeah, it was great. Thanks very much.
Absolutely.